In the days when people still believed the sea could hear your thoughts, there lived a fisher named Nereon. Every dawn, he pushed his small boat into the water and watched the horizon like it owed him something. Some days, he returned with enough to feed his home. Other days, he returned with emptiness and a smile that tried to convince his family that everything will be okay. His child would run down to the shore when he came back. "How was the sea today?" the child asked. The fisher would answer the way adults answer when they're trying to protect someone from the truth. The sea was kind, but his eyes said the opposite. Winter came and the village started counting meals. The fisher began to notice something that scared him more than empty baskets. The village was starting to celebrate the wrong things. They celebrated quick wins and big hauls, loud, shiny proof that today is handled, even if tomorrow was left trembling in a corner. One night, his child fell asleep with a hand on an empty bowl, and the fisher sat outside, holding his old net in his lap, and he whispered into the dark, "Give me riches, just once. Give me a season where I don't have to worry. Give me enough so my family never looks at an empty bowl again." The sea was quiet. The wind was quiet. Then the water near the shore shifted, as if something underneath it was listening. Then a voice arose. "You asked the sea for riches," the voice said. "Do you know what riches are?" The fisher stood, trembling. "I know what hunger is," he said. "I know what it costs. I can work. I can suffer. I've done that. But my child—" The water folded into the shape of a figure made of moonlight and tide. Thalassa, spirit of the sea. "So you want a tool that changes your life," the spirit said. "Yes," the fisher whispered. "A blessing, something that finally makes it easy." Thalassa lifted one shimmering hand. From the water rose a beautiful net that gleamed like sunrise trapped in thread. Each knot looked perfectly tied by hands that never shook. It didn't drip like a wet net. It glowed as if it carried its own light. The fisher reached for it, and the moment his fingers touched the golden strands, warmth ran up his arms and into his chest. "Here," Thalassa said, "the golden net. It'll catch what you cast it toward." The fisher's breath caught. "What's the price?" Thalassa tilted their head as if the question amused them. "You already pay a price for everything," the spirit said. "This net simply collects it faster. Use it wisely." And then Thalassa sank back into the sea. The fisher stood on the shore holding the golden net, staring at it as if it might disappear if he blinked. So he didn't blink. The next morning he went out before the first bird called. The sea was calm. He cast the golden net and waited. And when he pulled the net, the sea answered him with weight. It was really heavy and felt substantial. When the net broke the surface, the fisher's mouth fell open. Fish! Lots of fish! So many fish! The net looked alive. Silver bodies, dark bodies, wide-eyed bodies. Fish he recognized, fish he'd only heard stories about, fish that usually stayed far out where ordinary nets couldn't reach. And the village erupted. They ran to the shore. They laughed like they hadn't laughed in months. They lifted the fisher onto their shoulders and shouted his name. Children danced, elders wept. His own child hugged his waist so tightly it almost hurt. That night, fires burned bright. People ate until their cheeks filled up and their eyes stopped looking hungry. And the fisher felt powerful, something he hadn't felt in a long time. And power, when it finally finds you after a long season of fear, can feel like love. The golden net became the village's new sun. People stopped asking the old questions like, how do we make this last? How do we care for the sea that cares for us? What happens if we take too much? Instead, they asked the new questions. How big will tomorrow's haul be? Can you cast twice in one day? What if you go out at night too? The fisher tried at first to be careful. He told himself just enough. He told himself, I'll stop when we're stable. But stability has a strange trick. The moment you touch it, your mind moves the finish line. When the village's hunger was gone, they wanted comfort. When comfort arrived, they wanted luxuries. When luxuries appeared, they wanted status. And status is a beast that's never full. Soon, the fisher wasn't just feeding people. He was feeding expectations. And expectations don't clap politely when you say, that's enough. They demand. So he cast the golden net again and again and again. The baskets overflowed, the smokehouses filled, the village traded fish for fine cloth, spice, polished metal, and songs from traveling strangers. People began to walk differently, chests out, voices louder, like wealth had rearranged their bones. One afternoon, his child sat beside him and asked, "Will you teach me the old net?" The fisher barely looked up. "Why? This one works." The child traced the air as if drawing the shape of the old net. "But your hands used to show me the knots." The fisher laughed gently. "You'll learn later," he said. "Right now, we're finally safe." One evening, an elder approached the fisher while the village celebrated yet another massive catch. "I've seen seasons like this," the elder said. The fisher, flushed with praise, smiled. "Good seasons?" The elder shook their head slowly. "Fast seasons." The fisher's smile tightened. "What do you mean?" "I mean the sea has seeds," the elder said, "and the seeds look like small fish. If you pull the seeds out, what do you think grows?" The fisher frowned and glanced away toward the golden net draped like royalty over a post. "It catches what it catches," he said. "And do you release any?" the elder asked. The fisher hesitated. The truth was uncomfortable, so his mind tried to step around it. "We need what it brings," he said. The elder leaned in. "Need is honest, but want wears need's face all the time." "Are you accusing me of greed?" snapped the fisher. The elder's voice stayed calm. "I'm accusing the golden net of having no mercy. And I'm accusing you of believing that because it shines, it must be good." The fisher felt the village's eyes on them. He felt the fragile throne of admiration beneath him. And like many people who've finally escaped fear, he panicked at the idea of going back. So he did what people do when they're cornered by truth. He turned it into disrespect. "Elder," he said loud enough for others to hear, "you speak like someone who misses being needed." A few villagers laughed. The elder's face didn't change, but his eyes did. There was sorrow there, the way there's sorrow in a parent's face when a child chooses the wrong path. "Then I have said what I came to say," the elder whispered. "May you remember it in time." And he walked away. The fisher told himself the elder was bitter. He told himself the elder didn't understand how hard it was before. He told himself the sea was endless. He told himself a lot of things. Some time passed, and something started to feel different. At first, the change was subtle. A day where the haul was slightly smaller. A week where the fish came up with less fight as if they were tired. Then, one morning, the golden net came up heavy. But wrong. Not with the lively chaos of full-grown fish, but with everything. Tiny fish so small their bodies were almost transparent, egg clusters clinging to the mesh like dew. Creatures the fisher had never seen on the surface, all hauled up in the net. The villagers still cheered because it still looked like abundance, but the fisher felt a strange uneasiness because he remembered the elder's words. "The sea has seeds." He told himself it didn't matter. "It's one strange catch," he muttered. "Just one." He cast again the next day. More small ones, more eggs, more quiet. The sea started feeling like a room that had been emptied. And then came the day the golden net rose from the water almost clean, save for a few weak fish that flopped at the bottom of the net. The fisher stared at them, confused, then angry, then afraid. He cast again. He pulled. Nothing. Behind him, the village gathered in silence. Hunger had a smell, and it was returning. Someone whispered, "How's this possible?" Someone else said, "Use the net again." Another shouted, "Fix it!" That night, fires didn't burn bright. People didn't sing. His child didn't ask how the sea was. They just watched him eat in silence. Later, alone on the shore, the fisher screamed into the dark, "Thalassa, you tricked me!" The sea answered with nothing but waves and wind. He fell to his knees. "I only wanted safety and to provide." And finally, Thalassa rose again. "You wanted riches," Thalassa said, "and you received them." The fisher stood shaking. "Where are the fish?" "Where are the fish?" the spirit repeated. "Or where's the future you pulled out with your hands?" The fisher clenched the golden net. "I didn't mean to." Thalassa lifted a hand and the surface of the water changed. It became a mirror. And in that mirror, the fisher saw himself. But not as he was. He looked older. His shoulders were bent. His eyes were tired in a way that went beyond hunger. He staggered back. "That's not me." Thalassa's voice softened. "Look closer." The fisher looked down at his real hands and realized they weren't the same hands that had first touched the net. They were rougher, older than yesterday's hands. He stumbled, suddenly dizzy. What's happening?" he whispered. Thalassa stepped closer. "The golden net doesn't only catch fish." The spirit touched the net gently, and the golden strands flickered, showing something underneath the shine. Something like days or time. It was then that the fisher understood. Every time he pulled a haul too big, he was dragging the future into the present and calling it success. He wasn't just taking fish. He was taking tomorrow. He had been living at a speed that stole years, and the sea had been emptying because the fisher had been catching the sea's unborn promises. He dropped the net like it burned. "No," he cried. "I didn't know." The fisher's eyes filled. "I thought it was a blessing." "It was," Thalassa said. "A blessing that reveals the heart. Tools don't make people good or bad. Tools make people louder. They amplify what's already inside." The fisher sank to his knees again. "What do I do?" "You return what you can," the spirit said. "And you accept what you can't return. You protect what remains, and you fish as if you plan to live." The fisher pressed his forehead to the sand. A sob broke out of him, raw, humiliating, human. "I wanted to save them," he whispered. "And now," Thalassa said quietly, "you save them differently." The next morning, the fisher walked into the village square with the golden net in his arms. People gathered fast, hope rising in them. "Are we going out?" someone asked. "Will you cast farther?" another demanded. The fisher lifted the net, sunlight hit it, and the village's eyes widened like worship. Then he threw it on the ground. Gasps. A shout. "What are you doing?" "I've been stealing from you," he said, voice shaking. "Not money or fish, but time. The future." He explained. People protested. They accused him. They begged him. They threatened him. And in the middle of it all, his child stepped forward and held up the fisher's old net, the patch one that looked like failure compared to gold. The child said, "This net fed us before, and it can again if we stop trying to eat the sea all at once." Silence fell, because children have a way of speaking the truth people don't want to hear. The fisher turned to the crowd. "We will fish differently," he said. "We'll release the small ones and leave breeding grounds untouched. We'll take what we need, and we'll accept enough as a real word." Someone spat. "That's not how you win." The fisher nodded, tears in his eyes. "No, but that's how you last." Then he carried the golden net back to the shore. Thalassa rose as the water met his ankles. The fisher held the net out. "Take it." Thalassa studied him. "Do you understand now?" The fisher nodded. "Yes, and I hate that it took loss to make me wise." Thalassa replied. "Most people only learn the weight of tomorrow once they've already spent it." The fisher released the golden net into the sea. For a moment it floated, glowing like temptation. Then it sank. The village struggled for a while after that. That's the honest part no storyteller can skip. There were lean days. There was humility. There were arguments. There were moments when the fisher woke up sweating, reaching for the ghost of the gold net. But something else happened too. The fisher taught his child the old knots. The child taught other children. The village began to value patience as a form of strength. And the sea, slowly and steadily, returned its gifts in a rhythm that said, "If you respect me, I will keep feeding you." Years later, when the fisher was truly old, he sat on the shore beside his grown child. The child asked, "Do you ever miss it?" The fisher looked at the horizon, peaceful. "No," he said, "because I finally learned what riches are." "What are they?" He smiled. "Tomorrow still being there," he said. And far out in the water, where the light touched the surface just right, something shimmered like a quiet reminder that the sea never stops teaching. It only waits for us to listen. Okay, so what can we learn about money from this story? Let's take a look. Lesson 1. Fast money can make you feel rich while making you poorer. When the fisher first receives the golden net, everything changes overnight. One day, he is a struggling fisher with empty baskets. The next, he's the hero of the village. People cheer, children dance, elders weep. Fires burn bright. For the first time in a long time, he feels powerful. And that's the thing with fast money. It doesn't always arrive looking dangerous. Sometimes it arrives looking like answered prayer. It looks like the business deal that finally works, the investment that suddenly shoots up, the credit card limit that gets increased, the loan that gives you breathing room, the bonus that lands just when you were stressed, the inheritance, the payout. At first, it feels like relief. But relief is not the same as wisdom. The fisher's first mistake is that he thinks the size of the catch proves the net is good. He sees results and assumes the method is safe. That's exactly how people get trapped financially. They make quick money once and they start believing the shortcut is a strategy. Someone doubles their money on a risky trade and suddenly thinks they understand investing. Someone takes out a loan and feels rich for a month, forgetting that the future version of them has to pay for it. Someone gets a big salary increase and immediately upgrades their lifestyle, not realizing they've only increased the pressure on themselves. Fast money can be useful, but it's dangerous when it arrives before discipline. If you were impulsive with a little, you may become reckless with a lot. If you had no plan when you earned less, you may still have no plan when you earn more. That's why the real question isn't, how do I get rich quickly? The better question is, if money came quickly, would I know how to keep it? Because many people don't lose money because they never had it. They lose it because they received it before they had the structure to manage it. The lesson is simple. Fast money is not bad, but fast money without wisdom is dangerous. Lesson 2. Never destroy the source that feeds you. In the story, the golden net doesn't just catch fish. It catches everything. Big fish, small fish, eggs, breeding life, and eventually the future of the sea itself. At first, the village sees abundance. The baskets overflow. There's more food, more trade, but underneath all that celebration, the source of the wealth is being damaged. The sea isn't just a place where fish come from. The sea is the capital base. If the fisher protects it, it can feed the village for generations. If he abuses it, it can give him a huge harvest now and nothing later. This applies directly to money. A rental property can produce income for years, but not if the owner refuses to maintain it. A business can produce profit for years, but not if the owner drains every cent and never reinvests. A body can produce income through work, skill, and energy, but not if someone burns themselves out completely chasing money. Many people are actually poor because they keep damaging the source of their income. They take all the profit out of the business instead of improving systems. They sell good investments too early to fund temporary wants. They overwork until their health breaks. They treat customers badly because they want fast sales instead of repeat business. A better money mindset asks, what's feeding me and how do I protect it? If your creativity feeds you, protect your time and energy. If your business feeds you, reinvest in quality, service, and operations. If your relationships bring opportunity, treat people with respect. Real wealth comes from protecting the source. It comes from letting the tree keep producing fruit instead of chopping it down for firewood. It comes from knowing the difference between income and the asset that creates income. Take from your income? Yes. Enjoy some of it? Yes. Improve your life? Yes. But protect the source. Because once the source is gone, the celebration ends very quickly. Lesson 3. Enough has to be decided before success arrives. At the beginning, the fisherman wants his family to stop being hungry. He wants safety. That's not greed. But once the golden net starts working, the definition of enough keeps moving. First, the village wants food, then comfort, then luxuries, then status. This is how lifestyle inflation works. When you're broke, you think, if I could just earn a little more, I would be fine. Then you earn more, and for a moment, life does feel easier. But then your mind adjusts. The new income becomes normal. The better lifestyle becomes normal. The upgraded phone, the nicer clothes, the better restaurants, the more expensive car, the bigger apartment, all of it starts feeling basic, so you need more again. That's why many people earn more money but never feel richer. Their income rises, but their expectations rise just as quickly. Every raise gets absorbed, every bonus disappears. Once your lifestyle depends on constant overperformance, you're no longer free. You may look successful, but inside, you're trapped. The car needs payments, the house needs payments, the subscriptions renew, the school fees rise, the social life becomes expensive. The people around you get used to a certain version of you. Now, you're not just earning for your needs, you're earning to maintain an image. That's when money stops serving you and starts commanding you. The solution is to define enough before success arrives. Decide what stability means. Decide what lifestyle you actually want. Decide how much you'll save before you upgrade. Decide what percentage of every raise goes to your future before your spending has a chance to swallow it. Because if you don't define enough, the crowd will define it for you. The world will always offer another upgrade. Social media will always show someone with more. Your ego will always find another reason why you're not quite there yet. Enough is not laziness. Enough isn't lack of ambition. It is a boundary. It's the line that protects your peace, your future, your health, and your family. Ambition without enough becomes hunger. And hunger, when it has no limit, will eat tomorrow. Lesson 4. Debt and overconsumption drag the future into the present. When Thalassa reveals the truth about the golden net, the lesson becomes painfully clear. Every huge catch was coming from the future. That's one of the cleanest ways to understand bad debt. Debt is not always evil. Some debt can build. A business loan can help expand a profitable operation. A home loan can help someone own an appreciating asset. But dangerous debt lets you enjoy something now while silently sending the bill to your future self. A credit card can make you feel wealthy today. A payday loan can make this week easier. Buy now, pay later can make purchases feel painless. Car finance can make you look successful immediately. But none of these things remove the cost. They just move it forward for the future to pay. The scary thing is that debt often begins with a reasonable emotion. People often borrow because they're tired and want relief. They want to give their family something better, and that's understandable. But the danger is when relief becomes a habit. When someone keeps borrowing from the future, eventually the future has nothing left to give. Their next salary is already spent before it arrives. Their bonus is already assigned to old mistakes. Their peace is gone because every month begins with obligations. The golden net also teaches us about overconsumption, not just debt. So you can also steal from the future even without borrowing money. You can do it by never saving, by ignoring retirement, by neglecting maintenance. You can do it by spending every cent of today's harvest and assuming tomorrow will provide the same amount. That assumption is dangerous. Markets change, jobs change, health changes, industries change, family needs change, economies change. Life doesn't promise that the sea will always be full. So a wise person asks, am I using today's money in a way that protects tomorrow? That means building an emergency fund, paying down toxic debt, investing consistently, avoiding lifestyle commitments that depend on perfect conditions, leaving margin in your budget, not using credit to pretend you can afford what your income can't support. The lesson isn't never enjoy your money. Enjoy it. Eat, celebrate, travel, buy beautiful things when you can afford them, but don't trade your future peace for present applause. Lesson 5. Real wealth is having tomorrow still available. A lot of people think wealth means abundance today, more money, more possessions. But the story argues for a deeper definition. Wealth is sustainability, being able to keep going. In money terms, real wealth isn't just what you can buy now, it's what remains possible later. Can you survive a bad month? Can your family handle an emergency? Can your business survive a quiet season? Can your investments keep growing if you leave them alone? Can your lifestyle continue without constant panic? Can your future self thank your present self? That's wealth. You need systems that allow tomorrow to breathe. A budget is not punishment. It's a way of making sure tomorrow still has money in it. Saving is not fear. It's respect for the fact that life changes. Investing isn't only about becoming rich. It's about giving your future more options. Insurance isn't exciting, but it protects you from one disaster wiping out years of work. Learning new skills may feel slow, but skills can feed you long after one opportunity disappears. Build a life that can survive quiet seas, bad seasons, mistakes, repairs, delays, and disappointment. Because the goal is not to look rich for one season, but to still have choices years from now. Well, I hope you enjoyed this story. Let us know in the comments what your biggest takeaway from it was. And please do stick around for more tales from the Money Tree.